Welcome to the Bowel Chronicles, where we dive deep into the world of bowel health. I'm your host, Nikki Kilpatrick, and on this podcast we have raw and candid conversations with individuals facing various bowel conditions and illnesses. Through personal stories and shared experiences, we illuminate resilience and courage in the face of adversity. Be reminded that each story is personal and unique. These conversations are not to be taken as medical advice or to replace guidance from a doctor or healthcare provider. Our aim is to inspire and empower through these amazing stories, amplifying voices often unheard. So join us as we embark on this journey together. Sit back, listen, and be inspired. Enjoy the episode. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Bowel Chronicles. I'm your host, Nikki Kilpatrick, and I wanted to tell you I was coming from sunny Belfast today, but in the last 10 minutes it started to rain. Hey ho. So we are going to chat with Sophie White. Sophie is 28 years young in Northamptonshire. Sophie, it is so lovely of you to take some of your time out of your day and come on here for a chat. So thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
So Sophie, you like to walk your dog, spend time with the family, do some baking, but it always hasn't been like that. You've had some years of absolute turmoil, pain, and your story is one of the dreaded ulcerative colitis, inflammatory bowel disease. So you've had surgery now. You've been living your best life with your stoma for 8 years, just over 8 years, which is incredible. But why don't you take us back to how did you become diagnosed with ulcerative colitis with IBD? How old were you?
I remember it all very, very clearly. My symptoms, I was fine. My symptoms started when I was on holiday in Turkey. I can remember the place where I was at.
Mhm.
I can remember what I was eating and everything like that. And I just had this sudden urge that I desperately needed to go to the toilet. I thought, I'm on holiday. It's probably a mixture of different foods, weather, a mixture of anything really. But when I returned, it all the symptoms stayed. I was, tired constantly. I was in pain all the time, constantly going to the toilet. And the urges to go to the toilet just got more and more and more, and they were more frequent and more sort of, you need to go now. So, went to the doctors back and forth, back and forth. Had some tests done, nothing really wrong with you. They'll give like antibiotics for some inflammatory markers. On your way, see you later. But then I found myself sort of in hospital a lot. I was in A&E for hours and hours and hours. I think my longest stint in A&E was sort of 27 hours.
This was due to the pain.
This was pain, yeah. So this was even before I got like properly diagnosed. So with me and my mum spent hours and hours and hours in A&E for well over. So that started. I'd probably say the stint of that was around sort of 3 years until they started taking us seriously. That's when they started sort of digging deep with X-rays, colonoscopies, and everything like that. X-rays would show sort of where my bowel is so inflamed it looks like it's blocked. So they were feeding me laxatives. And I was like, I don't have an issue with going to the toilet. If anything, I'm going too much. They'd explained to me that I'm constipated and all that's coming out of me is just sort of the water that's just bypassing the blockage. So that was a saga for quite a while where I was just living on laxatives, and I lost so much weight. I went down to a size 6 and it was crazy. I just looked grey all the time. I was tired all the time, just so fatigued. I'd lost appetite. I was, it was awful. The pain I was in, I was rolling around on the floor in so much pain. And then it took so much for me to get diagnosed. A good amount of years, a good amount of hospital trips as well, until eventually they done a colonoscopy and they were like, wow. So they could only get so far up as well because of how swollen and inflamed it was. It was sort of basically joined together. It was, without too much information. It was bleeding, it was all ulcerated, you know, it was awful. And just that shock of, you know, that there is, you know, there's something wrong with you, but you don't want to hear that there's something wrong with you. So once I finally got diagnosed, I got put on loads of different medications, steroids, like lansoprazole, so many different medications, infusions over the years. And I found myself in hospital for about a week every sort of month. So it would pattern. So when I had my steroids, as soon as I started reducing them off, that's when I would flare up again, and that's when I would be in pain again. And it would just, that was just a pattern all the time. And it just got to a point where they were sort of talking about surgery, and you know, they were like, this could be an option for you if this carries on, you know, medication isn't working, what can we do? So it got to the point where I was so ill, I was sort of essentially begging for surgery, like, please just take this away. You know, I'd done my research as to what I was having done, who's had it before. You know, I joined loads of Facebook groups, done the Google searches and everything that you would normally do when you're being told you're going to have a stoma bag. And I suppose, I think like everyone, a lot of people would sort of put a stoma bag with an older person, and it's generally not the case. Obviously, we've seen in our community that, you know, there's people a lot younger than me that, I mean, not that I'm young anymore, that have stoma bags. And I think there's a real stigma there that it's just associated with old people, and it's not. It can happen to anybody. So then you know, talks of that, we had the stoma nurses come round while I was an inpatient in hospital, then discharged after being given another bout of steroids, and then I got a phone call one weekend. Well, my mum actually got it because I was only, well, I was 19, so I would have been, they could have called me, but I think they just called my mum. They called my mum and said, you know, she needs to come in, we need to do surgery, we've had her bloods back, and you know, we need to get her down, we need to do the surgery now. So my mum rang me and was like, you've got to go. And I'm like, I don't want to go, I'm not going now, like this isn't the time I need to go. Not preparing myself, you know, 19 years old, really not prepared at all. She literally came and picked me up from my partner at the time's house, and she was like, you're going. I said, oh, I'm not. She quite literally dragged me. We got to the hospital. I was in a ward for an aside room for 2 days, dosed up on morphine. I was just an absolute mess, completely out of it. And then 2 days after that, so it was the 7th, they went, right, you're going now. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, I can't go now, I've got nobody here. You know, I was absolutely petrified. I had nobody with me. This was sort of mid-morning, so you know, visiting hadn't started for the wards or anything, so I was absolutely petrified. And I rang everyone. Literally, I rang my mum, my dad, my aunties, my partner, and it was just crazy because I was like, I'm going now, like I'm literally being wheeled down to the operating theatre. And they're like, okay, we're on our way, what are we doing? And luckily my my dad and my auntie met me. Oh god, my dad and my auntie met me at the theatre doors. And honestly, it was just, I think, being so young as well, I think I was just so scared of sort of like the unknown. And you know, I had to go in the room, I had to have the spinal block and everything fully. It was just so scary. And I was in surgery for 6 hours, everybody sat downstairs. Like my granddad lives in Stoke, he came down, my partner's mum and dad were there, my auntie, my uncle was there, mum, dad, you know, everyone was sort of there just waiting for me to come out of surgery. I was in intensive care then for 3 days. Yeah, and I just had everyone around me. I was in hospital then for about a week. I want to say a week. They literally got me up in a chair. So I was in intensive care for like 3 days, then went onto a ward. They got me sat up in the chair. They started getting me to walk. They done the 2 steps up. Oh, you're fit to go home. Went home, and yeah, that's I had a subtotal colectomy. So I've had sort of all my large apart from my colon taken, which I found out was about 5 foot.
Yeah.
Which is a lot of bowel, and when you think I'm 5'4", that's a lot. So yeah, and then the rest is history.
The rest is history. And it's, 8 years ago, but it's still very emotional for you, even talking through it now. And you said there that, you started to research it, you started to look at Google, you started to find people's journeys, who'd had a stoma or whatever, because it was, you were begging them, you were saying, like, make me better, take this away, do what you have to do. But actually, when the time came, it was like, we're actually doing this. Like, no, no, I don't want this. And as much as you want it to be life changing and life giving for you, it's still nobody wishes for it, because, like, if there was, a perfect world and you could have it the way you are, like, you wouldn't go through the surgery that you had to go through. Nobody would opt for a stoma,
No.
realistically, but you knew before the surgery that it was the best thing for you, and has been
Yeah.
an incredible life changing thing for you in the last 8 years. What
100%.
was it like, Sophie, waking up, seeing your stoma for the first time?
If I'm completely honest, I can't remember. I genuinely can't remember. I was on a morphine drive for, again, sort of like 3 days afterwards. So my initial sort of wake up was, what on earth is going on? I was fuzzy eyed and what is going on around me? I've got all these things around me. Obviously, I woke up in intensive care, so it was sort of crazy that I'm around all this stuff and I could barely see. It, I don't think it really hit me until I'd come home.
Right.
So oh God, this honestly, every time I talk about this, it makes me sad. I went on my way home. I was sick of hospital food, so we went to McDonald's. I used to work at the McDonald's near, so I knew sort of all the people in there. There was a group of lads in there that I used to work with. It used to be the, sort of the meet-up point for everyone at that sort of age. And I went in, ordered food and stuff, and everyone was asking me, like, are you okay? Like, what's been going on? And this group of lads that worked in there, I'll never ever forget this. One of them said to me, like, are you okay? Like, what's been going on? I was like, I've just had some surgery, sort of don't want to really, I've literally not even an hour been sort of out of hospital. I don't really want to be diving into sort of, I don't know what people are going to think when they, like I say, you associate stoma bags with old people and things like that. You don't really want to, you never know what people are going to say to you. Even still, you never know. So at that time I was like, oh, I've just had some surgery. He turned around and he said to me, I bet she's got a bag that she poos in. I had never ever thought that I would have a feeling like it. And it just sort of hit me, like proper choked me. I had to leave. Like, I was so sort of embarrassed. And for sort of 6 months to a year sort of after that, I was really so self-conscious of what I wore. I always thought people were staring at me. I was so, what's the word? I can't even, I was like a tortoise. I was like a tortoise in a shell. Like, I just didn't want to talk to anyone. I was so, yeah, from just everything. And I was so embarrassed and so upset. I just didn't know what to do, because it's like, well, it is, but you don't want to. It's sort of like denial. And it was, yeah. And I'll never forget who said it, how they said it, their facial expressions at the time, and sort of the people around them. And I think, looking back now, I think, what? Like, why is it an issue? And I think only now, knowing what I know, how I got here, and sort of knowing the people I know, sort of the community we have and things like that, I think, I think that there should be, prior to surgery, I think there should be more sort of communities out there to help them sort of situations, and to help sort of people that are going to be going into surgery and things like that, because I really don't believe there is enough support prior to surgery for that type of thing. And I would never ever want to put anybody in a situation that I was put in like that, if that makes sense. It was awful.
Yeah. I absolutely hate that you've had to go through that, and that has been your experience, and it had an impact on you for 6 months to a year, afterwards. And there's a lot of acceptance that people have to walk through when they get stoma surgery, without taking into consideration what Joe Bloggs is going to say at McDonald's, an off-cuff comment that they, whoever, probably did not intend to hurt you with their words, but it actually did. And it
Yeah.
had, a detrimental impact on your mental health for the next year after that, on like how you dressed, how you interacted with people, how you felt about yourself leaving the house, what you wore, how you felt. Like, that's not okay. And like
I
you
just
said, there isn't that enough awareness, like there isn't enough of a bowel community before people have surgeries, that we're kind of able to educate them on that. I mean, yeah, there is a huge kind of gap in the market, but sadly for the majority of people, it happens because the illness has been neglected, it hasn't been treated appropriately, or someone's health has just deteriorated really fast. And like you, it was like, we senior markers, we have to operate now.
Yeah.
And there isn't really that window of, right, okay, how do we educate this person on all things stoma?
No, I think just people are just so ignorant to not just stomas, just sort of any sort of illness that you could have. And I think, a lot of people that we've met, there's a massive branch of people that, have been on telly, have been here, there, and obviously yourself with your podcast, raising awareness is just, I think it's such a small part of educating, but it's something that needs to be wider, I think, for anything. And it's just, everybody is just so wrapped up in this small bubble that nothing's ever going to happen to them.
Yeah.
And you don't know what's around the corner for anybody. At 19 years old, I never thought that, although I knew the surgery was going to be an end result sometime, I never thought at 19 years old that, that would be me. And you don't. And it is probably, I suppose everyone's sort of been in that situation before. Again, 14-year-old me would never have thought, couldn't be me. And I was probably really ignorant to it at that point, because again, you associate it with older people and things like that, but you generally just don't realize anything can happen.
Yeah. And I think so many people, like you said, live in this bubble of, until they actually suffer with a chronic illness, or a loved one or someone very close to them suffers with it, then they don't realize, the extent of it, and how it can impact your life. And in a split second, that can be anyone.
Yeah.
Like I said, for a lot of people, it is emergency surgery, and those people have never ever heard of a stoma before, and they're waking up and they have a stoma bag attached to them, and they're like, "What? What even is a stoma?" Um, and I suppose that's nice that some people live in a reality of they don't know anything, But the other side of it is, at any moment in time, someone close to them could actually be impacted, whether it be a car accident, um, bowel cancer, a new baby is born with their bowel outside of their body and they have to have a stoma bag. At any moment, someone could end up having a surgery, which results in a stoma bag. And we've had so many people recently with different stories, people going in, having a baby, having a C-section, and their bowel's been perforated, and they end up with a stoma. And like, these things very much happen. And I guess we live in a world now where there's a lot more on social media, there's a lot more out there, where we hear of these stories. Before, they were kind of kept, and there was a lot of shame and stuff attached to it. And I think we still live in that stigma of it, of
Yeah.
we can't talk about poop, we can't talk about stoma bags. That is something that happens only with older people. That won't happen to you at 19 years of age. I recently interviewed a girl, and she had ulcerative colitis, and she'd had it again for 13 years. She'd gone through her bowel surgery, and her daughter was diagnosed in the middle of her having surgery with the same thing. A child at 9 years of age diagnosed with ulcerative colitis who started infusions, and I'm like, this very much like is day to day reality. It's people's lives. It's what we're living with.
Yeah.
So yeah, living in the old stigma of you can't talk about it. Am I freezing on your screen?
No, I've just got to grab a charger because my phone, I didn't realise it was so low. Let me just let me
Yeah,
grab the charger quickly.
we need to move away from the stigma and taking ourselves to social media, doing podcasts, raising awareness, um, getting voices out there, speaking up, doing TV interviews, charity fundraising, all of those things definitely help us raise awareness on it. And I think we need to keep moving forward with that. And I love that we're actually living in an age now where social media, like if you want to find anything out, you just have to go to TikTok or Instagram, you know,
100%.
Google and YouTube, or I don't know, are they a thing of the past? They are kind of for me. I just go straight to those platforms to find, who's had this, what is this treatment? I recently started a bladder treatment, and I was like, right, on to TikTok. What is it? Like, what's
Yeah.
everybody's thoughts? How do I deal with this? It's what we do. And the more people, you know, the younger generation getting it out there, raising awareness, I think is really, really important. So I'm going to say at this stage, Soap with a Stoma on Instagram. Go give her a follow, guys. You will find her on Instagram there, and yeah, watch her journey and what she shares on social media, because it's definitely of value. And we are like, I don't know what about you, Sophie, but I find that this community, the bowel community, it's it's really hard to describe. It's incredible, and we are, I want to say we're a small community, but it's actually a vast community. There's so many
Yeah.
people out there, and everyone's like family.
Yeah.
And there's no like slating each other. We want to build each other up. We want to encourage people, um, because really we don't want anyone else to go through what we've gone through.
No, 100%. And it is even, I've only been sort of, I want to say, exposed to the bigger community sort of within the last year, and started meeting people and things like that within the last year. And I think even within that year, I've met so many amazing people. I'll actually get emotional again.
Yeah.
I've met so many amazing people like just over this year, and honestly, it's crazy. It's crazy the support everyone has for each other. And you've all got such, like I said, we've all got such different stories of how we got to this surgery and things like that, but we all have such a similar outcome, and we all have so much in common, but also very, very different. And it's just amazing that that we all come together for this time. We all want to raise awareness, we all want to educate and things like that. And it is amazing. It is amazing community, small community, big community, however anyone would look at it as sort of like a small close-knit community. But there is a lot of us, even from our salts thing last year. There was not that many as there was obviously a couple of weeks ago, and it is even just over sort of 6 months, it's grown massively.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy, but yeah, it's an amazing community to be a part of.
find it very, very humbling, because as you said, we all can relate to each other. We all kind of, with stomas especially, we all have this one thing that we can all relate to each other on, and all of the different reasons or variations of stomas, whether it be an ileostomy, a colostomy, a urostomy, nephrostomy, whatever type of ostomy it is, we all get it. And when you hear other people's stories, like from one person to the next person, it doesn't devalue anyone, but there are so many inspirational people out there. Like, I am in awe of every single person that I meet, and when I hear their story, like, not one person has went, yeah, like I wanted a stoma, I wanted a stoma, I wanted a stoma, but I knew what it was going to do to me. But in a perfect world, nobody wants it.
Yeah,
Nobody knows the difference that it will make to you. And I think there are so many people out there that it is the end option, and it is the last resort. I mean, I'll never forget the surgeon going, I wouldn't want this for you, I wouldn't want it for my wife. I'm like, it's going to give me my life back. You know, Anything has to be better than the way we're currently living.
yeah,
But for so many people, it is this fear of change. My body's going to look different. Like, there's going to be this new adaptation on my stomach, that hasn't always been there. So, and I think as well, it's not just a female thing. I think it goes for males as well.
100%.
That they feel different, and now that impacts your mental health. It impacts relationships. It impacts everything. How you dress. Are you going to change the way you dress? Um, but I think when it comes down to it, it gives you a much better quality of life, and it's getting over those little hurdles, and it's learning from those. So it's watching, it's tuning into social media, whether that be Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube. The more we put out there for people to see that this is how we actually live. And don't get me wrong, there are days when it sucks. I don't know about you, but I've struggled in the heat recently with
Yeah, me too.
um, and there are times whenever you're sick and things that does have does have an
I
impact.
think everyone goes through that sort of mental issue with it. I especially myself, I go through waves of I hate it, get it off me, I don't want it anymore. And then there's some days where I'm like, it saved my life. Like, I wouldn't be without it. So it's a mental battle sort of constantly with yourself, and I don't know about you, but I think again, I can only speak for myself, not anybody else, but I think that for me there certainly is that mental battle of wanting it and then realizing not wanting it and then realizing, it saved my life, and I would now not be without it.
Yeah, I always say kind of, I have those moments of like, I look down and go, oh, it's me and you forever, mate. And then I think about how life used to be before it, and I'm like, oh no, I'm okay, it's you and me forever.
Yeah,
Goes away, but it doesn't mean I don't have those thoughts. They
yeah,
And you can be the most accepting person ever, but you'll still have those moments where it'll be like, yeah, just forever.
yeah.
But you're still here. You're still here to tell a tale. You're here to be on the other side of it. Sophie, what about relationships? You talked about your partner and things there before surgery. How how was that side of things? Your body does change. You did.
So I am now not with that person.
Mhm.
I think my stoma had a lot to do with it.
Okay.
I personally felt everything sort of changed after I come out of hospital. I didn't feel sort of looked at the same, and that always made like a sort of a big impact in my head. Like, is it me? Like, is
Yeah.
it because of this? And sort of, I always felt I would always be looked at like that. Going from somebody that was no stoma to stoma in a very short space of time.
Mhm.
Um, I just, yeah, I wasn't in a good that. I was better to get out of that situation in that sort of mental state that I was in with that, and seeing how somebody looks at you for the first time again with a stoma, and sort of that will always be stuck in my head. I mean, my partner now, we've been together 6 years, it'll be 7 in January. You know, we've got a great relationship, we've got a daughter, we've got 2 dogs now, a very recent puppy. You know, we've got a great relationship, and he's not bothered at all by it. He's not, it doesn't define me as a person, it's just a part of me. So he's not bothered about it at all. Never has been, never sort of second thought questioned
And
it.
with that, coming to terms with a new partner and having to say, I've got a stoma, how did you find that? Was it fairly just?
I didn't really vocalize it to start off with, because I thought I'm not going to tell someone in case it is sort of a, oh no, see you later. You know, I want to make sure that they like me for me, not for having a, or not having a stoma, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because, sorry, you can rock on, love, you've got a stoma, I'm not interested.
Yeah, so I didn't really vocalize it to start off with, but then when I did tell him, it was just sort of, right, okay, thanks for telling me. Like, okay. He's very supportive of it, and very understanding. You know, we so many times we've sat and spoke about like what I was like before, and you know how I feel about it, and he's very, very understanding of like my feelings, like the waves I go through and things like that. And you know, doctors have been talking about reversal and things like that, and he's, do you want that? Is that what you want? And you know, we go through the process of, to me, we're a team. You know, me having surgery is, it's going to impact you as well, so I need your opinion. You know, I've got a daughter as well, and I just, as well as that, I've got to think about her.
Yeah.
You know, if I have reversal and things, that I don't think I would ever have the reversal now, hearing stories, but you know, I've got a great life now. Why would I want to be put back in time, essentially? So, you know, we're very open about conversations about it, and you know, I think that has definitely helped me be more open on sort of like social medias and things like that, and wanting to, you know, create my page. And you know, my page is very minimal compared to, you know, somebody else's, but it still helps me put it out there.
Yeah. I think as well, it's kind of a bit of therapy for us as well,
Yes.
somewhere for us to kind of put our thoughts and feelings out there. And I suppose a bit of a journal as well, if you look at it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm so like delighted that you're in a relationship that is one that communicates love and trust, and you've started off building that in the right way, and look what it's grown into now. My goodness, you're a family network, and this isn't just about considering yourself, it is about considering your other half, and your daughter, and what you have. So that is important. You've touched on there the idea of reversal, and you don't think you'll ever have reversal. Just in case someone is now going, why wouldn't she have the reversal? What's your thoughts and feelings on that?
Again, when reversal was sort of brought up, I'd done my research again. I was Facebook groups, I was talking to people, and you hear, when I spoke to my surgeon recently, it was sort of like I was a textbook. So when they first told me about reversals, it was, you might not be able to have kids, it might not work, you could be back with a stoma in X amount of time. And then when you read stories about it on social medias and things like that, I think I don't want to be put in that position where I'm then sort of begging for surgery again.
Yeah.
And I like my life. Well, I love my life at the minute. It's not really an inconvenience to me. I just change my bag sort of every day, every other day. I empty it a couple of times a day. In my eyes, it's a benefit to me, you know. I can drink coffee until the cows come home. It doesn't bother me. I don't have to run to the toilet every 5 seconds. You know,
Yeah.
I can eat spicy food. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's advantages to me of having a stoma.
Yeah.
But obviously there are also disadvantages, you know.
So if you were to have that reversal done, just for those listening, you have had your large bowel completely removed, the 5 feet of it. So they would be connecting your small bowel to the rectum, which means
Yes.
not a lot of length of colon there at all. So
No.
basically, you would pretty much probably be back to diarrhea type stool all the time, running to the toilet.
Yeah, so they said that I would have a J pouch, which how they described it to me was, how right this is, I don't know. Because I haven't had the surgery, so I don't know. It's like a coffee filter,
Mm-hmm.
essentially, and you connect it up, and the filter sort of extends the time that it goes through your digestive system.
Yeah.
Um, Again, I haven't had the surgery, so I don't know.
Yeah. It's
Um,
almost like a little fake part of the bile that's put into the rectum, um, to kind of save it coming out immediately.
yeah,
But yeah, as you said, you've looked on social media, you've followed people's journeys, you've chatted to so many people. A lot of these people that have the reversal done or the J pouch created, they regret it after a while, or they beg to have their stoma back because it does take them back to being on the toilet multiple times a day, and it's kind of like, why did I have my stoma in the first place? You know, why am I now back to that? So I
yeah,
get it. Um, yeah, I understand it. Why you say no? As you
yeah,
said, you have a good quality of life right now. You know, you can
100%.
drink whatever you want. You know, you empty your bag a couple of times in the day, change it every couple of days. You know, you can't get any better, like, can you?
No,
Yeah, yeah. Okay, grand. Well, it is what it is. What about ulcerative colitis being hereditary? Was that something? Have you ever asked that question whenever you had your daughter? Um, was it ever anything you kind of discussed with your surgeon, or no?
no, never. No, I had my daughter after having my surgery, so my little girl's 5,
Mhm.
so I've never even really
Yeah,
thought about it.
I know some people do. Because my next question was there anyone else in your family who had
No,
bowel disease? No.
no, I am unique. I am the only one.
Yeah. And again, that happens, and I don't know. Sometimes the older generation weren't one who went and had everything investigated, and some of them have gone to their graves with um inflammatory bowel disease, and no one else knows how.
Potentially,
Yeah,
I just skipped a few generations.
yeah, yeah.
Not I have no idea. No, as far as I'm aware, none of my family,
Oh,
none of my family.
okay. What about, is there anything that your stoma has left you that you're unable to do?
No, nothing at all. I don't think.
Do you think it has given you a new zest for life? Are you more inclined to say yes to things? Or
100%. It has given me a completely new life. A complete new life. You know, I could not go to the shops without needing to go to the toilet. Now I could spend all day there. Um, quite happily. Yeah, it has given me a complete new life, and I I think I do take it for granted sometimes of how much of life it has actually given me, if that makes sense. It's yeah, I should thank it every day.
mm, yeah, I know it's one you're like, because it's like, okay, I'm looking down at you and me forever, but then I need to be thankful of you.
Yeah, thanks for saving me, but we also don't have the great relationship.
Yeah, yeah, and that's okay to have those moments. It definitely is.
100%, 100%.
So, is there anything else that you want to touch on before we kind of wrap up today? If there was a piece of information you could give to your 13-year-old self being diagnosed with IBD, or 19-year-old going through surgery?
I think the only advice or anything I could give would be, for anybody going through that, my younger self, anything would be sort of, don't be afraid to ask questions. If you see somebody that, has got a stoma bag, or, you see somebody online or anything like that, I think it should, I believe it should be sort of acceptable to be able to ask questions. 19-year-old me would never have, gone up to somebody and asked them. And I hate nothing more now than people staring at me and like questioning, has she got it or not? I'd rather somebody come up to me and say, have you got one? Like, or what is it? I think younger children as well, sort of, I was on holiday recently, and, I'm completely open with it now. I'll wear a bikini and have it out. But the amount of people that stare, I would rather somebody just walk up to me and say, excuse me, what is that? I'm happy to explain, which I suppose is where educating people would come into that. 13-year-old me and would probably be the same, and I would have looked, I probably would have not even asked. But I think now, knowing what I know, the situations I've been in, I would want somebody to ask me rather than stare. And I think there should be way more education on sort of IBD and sort of all IBD aspects, I suppose, not even just stomas and, Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis, all sort of aspects of it. There's so many different paths that you could go down with it. I think there should, don't be afraid to ask questions. Do you know what I mean? It's just
IBD and cancer and all of those things.
100%.
Discriminatory. It doesn't matter what age, shape, size, race, you are, it comes for people. And it's very, very prevalent. And, I just wish that there had been more kind of education and everything in place where you'd have been that girl standing at McDonald's, and you might have been able to say, look, mate, yeah, I might poop in a bag, but I'm flipping here to tell a story. It saved my life. Might have put him in the spot, might have give him food for thought, or changed his attitude towards what he was talking about. And it's just, yeah, it's that lack of education. And I can remember when I had my stoma surgery, my nephew was 5. And sitting down and explaining what exactly it was. And now it's just the norm. It's the accepted thing by them. And one of his friends in class now has a stoma, and he knows exactly what that is. And I'm like, here we are educating a 5-year-old, you know, and again, I mean, there's so many children now in our advocates group. They're raising awareness, and whenever they go into school and they have maybe an assistant in the class who's going to help them with bag changes or whatever, the whole class is getting educated. Some schools are doing a talk, they're explaining what this is. I think that is so important. And I think I was actually speaking to someone else who was a teacher, they're a retired teacher now, and in later life, they've gone through diverticular and they've ended up with a stoma. And when they were reflecting on their teaching years, she was talking about having this moment of realization of, oh my goodness, that people in my class had ulcerative colitis, or that people in my class had Crohn's disease. I feel like I failed that student because I didn't ask them, was there anything I could do for them? And I think as well, the longer we go back and on years, not everybody was made aware that someone in their class had a stoma bag either. It was kept very hush hush. I think, yeah, it definitely needs to be pushed out there,
100%.
advertised, and education raised so that people's journeys and lives and mental health is a lot easier than potentially what they're battling through. Anyway, I could chat all day about stoma. Sophie, it has been great for you to come on here and share your story. Thank you for just being open and real. And I know that parts of that were difficult for you. You still get choked up whenever you think back. But what an awesome community to be part of. You know, relationships are built, friendships are formed whenever we all have each other's backs and we support each other. And yeah, we need to keep on doing that, because you know, in another couple of years' time, there'll be another Sophie, there'll be another Nikki, you know, on social media going through the same journeys. And yeah, all we're doing is paving a way for the future ostomates. So keep sharing your stuff on social media, keep being you. You're a superstar. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Guys, that is us for today. Do come back and join us next week for another episode. But from Sophie and myself, it is over and out.